Welcome to our latest video for the buyer. This week we're actually going to talk to a winemaker. So we've spent quite a lot of time. We've had a fair share of importers and distributors and people running restaurants and bars. But so we thought it was a high time we actually went and talked to a winemaker. So we're heading off to France. And welcome to Katie Jones from Domaine Jones. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Richard. Yes, I'm fine. I'm very privileged to be one of your first wine producers.
Well, you know, yes. Well, I mean, obviously I interview winemakers all the time, but you know, in these times on Zoom, so nice to chat away. So you're back from your vineyard walk this morning.
That's right. In actual fact, now I've actually I'm sort of running them down a little tiny bit as we get up to harvest. So when I first started, I was doing them Monday to Friday, so every weekday morning, and now I do them Tuesday and Thursday. I did one yesterday morning, and that is because I want to keep doing them right up to harvest. So the idea is I do Tuesday, Thursday now up until harvest, and then we'll actually get people, my ramblers, I'll actually get them in my winery as well during harvest. So the idea is we can follow it right through to actually making the wine too. And
this was something you started doing during the lockdown, wasn't it? This was one of your ways.
Yeah.
Saying during lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, lockdown happened, and I look after, my main job here at Domaine Jones is the general running of Domaine Jones, but also the sales side. So I'm normally at this time of year, I'm normally out and about across Europe, supporting my customers by doing tastings and just doing the major wine fairs as well, like Provine. I should have been at Provine. And to suddenly just find myself confined to Touchon, where I live, which is 800 people, I was a bit scared about getting cabin fever in the village, literally, and not being able to get out. And it was that, plus also a couple of things, like we were still allowed to go out and farm our vineyards during the whole lockdown time. And I really felt like privileged that I was able to actually get out, go for walks, and actually be outside in the fresh air. And I just felt the need to sort of share that with people who couldn't do that. And in particular, it did start with my parents who live in Ashby-de-la-Zouch. And they were meant to be coming down for a 2-week holiday that they've been looking forward to for 2 years. And unfortunately, because of the situation, it was cancelled. And I sort of said, well, don't worry, you know, I'll just nip out and do a quick video. And then you can pretend you're in my car and you can pretend you're in the vineyards, and it'll be like being here. And that sort of snowballed into doing it live and just seeing if other people joined in, and remarkably they did. And then it just snowballed into doing it like every weekday morning at 8:30 here, so 7:30 in the UK, basically to show my parents what they were missing down here in Touchon, to get me out of the house and to get me out into the vineyards, and also to sort of get to know my vineyards better, which may sound a bit strange after Domaine Jones has been going since 2009. But it's a sort of husband and wife act. So it's with Jean-Marc, my husband, and he very much does the vineyard side of things, whereas I do the sales and marketing. And so to actually be able to get back and get into my vineyards and really get to know them was great for me.
Yeah. And have you done things like Instagram Live before? I mean, I know you do lots of, you're amazingly good at marketing. No.
Yeah, I've got a marketing brain, I think, in there somewhere. And, but no, the Insta Live, I sort of looked at it and thought, this is really exciting, but I hadn't had the opportunity to really do anything major with it, or to think, how do I want it to work, or how could it work for Domaine Jones? So I'd had a go, and I sort of realized the potential, especially like living in a vineyard where you've got 800 people in a village of 800 people. The idea of actually having more people watching you on a Zoom tasting than there are in the actual village, the whole thing, I just find it, the potential really exciting. So no, I hadn't done it before. I'd done the occasional sort of, oh, what happens if I press this button on a Saturday morning, just to see. And then with the lockdown, that really sort of pushed me to go out and just see exactly what was possible to do with it.
Yeah, and I mean, what I think was so successful about your walks was, or are, is as you say, there's so many people doing stuff on Instagram Live at the moment with so many different tastings. But I think for as a viewer, you know, because you were, as you say, we were going with you on your daily routine. It was almost like we were sort of virtually in a vineyard with you. It was it was very different. It actually made the platform work. You know, it was actually something that was really live.
I think so. And also my idea was, because I'm not really into the technical side, even in the vineyards and in the winery. I'm not a trained winemaker. I'm not a trained viticulturist. So I think there's a way of looking at things, which is, from my point, it was really simple and straightforward, and there was nothing too technical. Although I had Jean-Marc, my husband, who sometimes I bump into in one of the vineyard work. So he was there for the French and also for the technical side of things. But it allowed it to come out on different levels as well. So I have ramblers who join me who are there because they want the French. I have ramblers who should have been on holiday down here in the south of France. And then I also have like WSET people on students who want to see what mildew looks like. And it was just like fascinating. And I think because for myself as well, I was sort of discovering it almost for the first time too. Like the mildew, we never get mildew down here. And then I decided to do these vineyard walks, and it's been the worst growing season since we started the Domaine, and the worst growing season that Jean-Marc can remember. So not only did I decide to start my Instagram lives, but also we're all organic as well. So it was like, if you look back on them, they're all on YouTube. The first ones I did, I've literally got my cagoule on. I'm out with an umbrella. Oh, Jean-Marc's out with this big pink umbrella, and we're just thinking, what are we going to say? No, it's raining. It's not meant to rain down here. But it gave us the real insight, or people the insight into what it's really like. Like, it rained for 2 weeks solid, so we got mildew. We never get mildew. So it's like, how did we cope with the mildew? Was it going to destroy the crop or not? Because at one stage, it's quite touch and go. So it really was a sort of a really detailed look into the vineyards, but on a nice, easy, sort of chatty level with little competitions.
I think you were asking questions and genuinely being interested yourself, which and people could ask questions, couldn't they, as well on the
Exactly, yeah, because I did it with the feed, or they put the questions actually live in the little box. So it meant, and also it was great because I had like winemakers from Wales, for example, who followed me, from White Castle Wine or Dalewood Vintners as well, from I think it's Devon or Cornwall. But they followed me. So if I didn't have a word, I'd say, "Oh, Rob, can you just how would you say that in English?" And there was a real community, and even now there's a real community. Like when people start on my rambles, they spend like 5 minutes saying hello to each other. So it's like, oh, hi, what are you doing today? And I thought they were talking to me, and then I sort of looked at it once, and they're actually talking to themselves. So there's this real community that's been built up. And I think it's also been helped by the trips in my Diane, because I sort of extended my rambles to also asking people if they would like to join me in my lovely Citroen Diane car to actually see the journey to the vineyard and the journey back, so they get an idea of space and place and distance. So basically about 100 ramblers all pile into my Diane, and I bring them back to the village. But the chat that goes on in the back of the car is just hilarious. It's so yeah, thanks to my ramblers, they've built up this lovely community and just kept it, on a really nice, chatty, friendly sort of level. And
it must be good for you as well, in terms of like, I don't know, you do your daily work, and then you can come back and actually watch the video and see what people were saying to each other during your chat or your walk as well.
Yeah, it's invaluable sort of feedback. from the chats that we get and what interests people. And also one of the things that I never, because it's like 7:30 in the UK in the morning, so we don't actually taste wine. So it's not a tasting, it's literally, this is everything that goes into my wines. So it was a word, you know, terroir, a word that I never really appreciated. I think 100%. I just, even me, just think, oh, that's that French word that covers up a whole lot of things that, you know, winemakers' faults. They just say it's a terroir, etc. And doing these walks, for me, it really is to show people the terroir of the vineyards where my wines come from. So it's all about terroir, and it's all about terroir's not just the soil, although we look at the soils, it's the climate, but it's also the people, and it's that sort of sense of place. And so sometimes I'll go and visit my father-in-law in his vegetable plot, because for me that's all part of this place. It's the tradition, and it all somehow goes into the wines and why we're making wines down here. And I even taught people just how to pronounce that word, terroir. So we have little pronounce it. You ready? Do you want to have a go? Basically, it's really easy. I'm sure you can say it really well anyway, but it's like tear a bit of paper, so just tear, and then you just go, wah.
Tear, wah.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, no, very good.
Yeah, so we just...
Yeah, no, I'm going to say, because like obviously you're the story of Domaine Jones and where you are, and you know, well, actually, I mean, for those who aren't familiar, for example, with Domaine Jones, in terms of why particularly terroir is so important to where you are, can you perhaps just give a recce on what Domaine Jones is and the kind of wine?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So Domaine Jones is based, firstly, so we're down in the Languedoc. We're on the Languedoc-Roussillon border. So we're about 6 kilometers from the Roussillon, so on the edge of the Languedoc, and we're between the towns of Narbonne and Perpignan and Carcassonne. So basically, if you do a triangle, Narbonne, Perpignan, Carcassonne, put a point in the middle, that's Touchant. But we are at least an hour from any of those towns. So we're really, it's real La France profonde. My husband hates me calling it that, but for me, it really is deep rural France. It's very agricultural. The only thing that grows is vines. So this whole village is based around the vineyards. And I came down here over 25 years ago, basically because I loved the idea of living and working in rural France, the real France, what I call the real France. And for 15 years, I worked at the local village cooperative called Montoche. So that's why I came down here. That was following on from working at Thierry's, the Thierry's import agency that was based in Romsey, and they worked with the Montoche co-op. So I came on holiday to visit them, and basically I've never gone home. So that was 25 years ago. I did 15 years at that wine cooperative, just thinking, you know, this is a really forward-thinking co-op. The potential is massive for good wines. And then after 15 years, it was a recession. Things got a bit more difficult. My marketing budgets were cut and my PR budget, and that was a side of the work that I really enjoyed. So I decided I need to do something else. And because the only thing around here are vines, I thought, well, let's have a go. And with my parents, we just bought one tiny little vineyard in the Roussillon and in Maury, actually, and it was Grenache, and there were about 8,000 vines. And then I met my husband, Jean-Marc, and he was the president of the co-op, but he knew everything about vineyards. So just sort of to have this little tiny vineyard and to have somebody who knows everything about the vines, it was just seemed natural and logical to actually try and make some wine from that first vineyard. And that's what we did in 2009. In 2009, we made our first vintage of Domaine Jones. And then it just increased from there. It was old vines. I bought the vineyard before I met Jean-Marc, and I didn't know a thing about vines. I just walked into that vineyard, looked at the view, and just thought, this is totally amazing. It's a view over the Cathar Castle of Caribous. I looked at the soils, and there was like no earth. It was just rocks. It's like a black schist, and the vines were 80 years old. And I just thought, well, I've read it somewhere that's the ingredients you need. And that was it. That was the first one. So then I met Jean-Marc. We started to make wine from that vineyard, and it worked. And so then we basically slowly bought up other old vineyards. So I kept that same recipe, that it's only old vines. So the vineyards that I've bought for Domaine Jones, they're between 45-year-old and 110-year-old vines.
Wow, nice.
And today I have 15. We've just bought another one, having said we're not going to buy any more. We just bought one more. So 15 tiny little.
They're all kind of dotted around, aren't they? They're yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen the tea towel? Or not?
You create your own little Burgundy, haven't you? You've got that little slots.
It is, Richard, it's exactly that, because I was doing a tasting once in Switzerland, and I was actually next to a Burgundy producer, and he said to me, "Oh, you're in the Languedoc, you've got massive big vines." And I said, we actually talked about it, and I said, actually, my vines are smaller than yours, and the production is actually smaller than your vines in Burgundy. He was like, "Whoa." And so from that, I got this map drawn by Tim Bulmer, a great artist, of my vineyards. So there is a map that exists just showing how small my little vineyards are. I've got my 15 vineyards cover 12 hectares. So they are minute, and it totally is the Burgundy idea.
No, that's great, yeah. And I think what's fascinating about your story, though, is, as you say, as your walks have shown as well, you've learned as you've gone along, haven't you? And it's not like you've gone to Plumpton College and gone there with with all your wine.
I wish I had sometimes, but no, I don't know.
But I think that's, you've helped the community has sort of grown with you, hasn't it, over those years, as you've picked up more vineyards, you picked up more customers, you picked up more distribution.
Yes. Yeah, I think, definitely there's a real following behind my wines. Once people taste the wines, and then they learn of the story, and they learn like how accessible, almost like I am, I think, as well, that it really helps to build up a following behind them.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of that community, because obviously, the last 2 or 3 months, you've really kind of like gone to town in terms of how you've used that community. But was that something when you started out, that was what you wanted to try and do, or was that something that just come naturally to how you are and what you want to try and do?
I think, like, when we first started the Domaine back in 2009, I did have the idea that I was just going to sell everything to private customers and build up the Domaine slowly like that. And I think I totally underestimated at the time how much work that was. And also when you're starting from scratch, when you don't have, people don't know the wines, they've never heard of you, it's a lot more difficult. And so that plan was sort of quite quickly abandoned to begin with. And now because I work with some great distributors throughout the world, and the wines have got out there, the story has been communicated. It's lovely now to be able to add to that, to actually help my distributors, but also not invite, it's not the right word, but hopefully to bring people down here virtually so they understand the wines. But in the next phase will be to really bring people down here and to create a wine tourism offering. That's a very French way of saying it, but wine tourism to follow on. Like, my next step would be to do what I've done virtually, to do it in, like,
have people
really
come on tours and coming spending the day with you, or
I think so, because I've positioned myself in a typical Katie fashion, in like wines that are really quite expensive. They're from great varieties that nobody's ever heard of. The yields are really small. So it's quite a difficult niche, especially from the Languedoc. We're in the south of France. Average price, probably be about half the price of my wines at least. And so I have positioned myself in quite a difficult niche to do. And so I just feel that any help that I can do around the wines, to explain the wines and to communicate why, the yields are so small, why we want small yields, why we want to work with things like Macabeu and Carignan Gris, and even Muscat, in the way that we make the Muscat as well. It's, for me now, it's all about communication. Like, I've got a solid base of, like you said, of people who follow me, and that solid base really helps now to be able to communicate and to add on, hopefully, the wine tourism aspect that will then help, again, the sales through my distributors and importers in different countries.
You have worked really hard, haven't you, in terms of actually getting out into the market, and Especially, you know, so many tastings that we go to, both in the UK and around the world. You know, you're there. You're
Exactly.
be it Wine, be it London Wine Fair, be it, you know, obviously the Naked Wines things you do, but
Yeah.
so is this in a way, obviously, because we can't travel at the moment, or we're not doing formal tastings. I suppose this is a great way for you to keep that connection going, both with the trade and with the customers, I suppose.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It really is that I feel that need, and I've always felt that need to contact and communicate with people. And that's how I've built this business, more on communication rather. I'm not a hard-nosed sales negotiator at all, and it's all about what surrounds the wines and talking about it. And yeah, you're completely right. Whereas before, I would have been doing tastings across Europe during the lockdown. Now I've actually been able to do it online and to be able to do it here from the vineyard. So it's sort of a natural progression during that really hard time when I couldn't actually get out and see my customers. But it's definitely, I do have that. I think it's because I live in a tiny village where nobody really likes me. We haven't touched on that yet. But it's almost like I live in this tiny village where because we're doing things so differently, we don't have a lot in common. I'll put it like that. With
it allows you to connect with people around the world, doesn't it, as well? I suppose it allows you to get out of
Exactly, and to communicate with people that understand what we're trying to do. And for me, it's almost like a therapy, that going out into the vineyards every morning and knowing that I've got like over 100 people watching live that understand or are interested and enthusiastic about what I'm doing, is a type of, it's really positive for me compared to what the reality can be like sometimes when you're trying to do something different in a cooperative village, a village that's dominated by a wine cooperative. It's not always that easy. So it's definitely, I have that need. I don't think I could still live in Tuchong if I didn't know I've got this like community behind me, helping me and understanding what I'm doing.
So going forward, do you mean when we can all travel to wine fairs again, I mean, do you see more of a balance for you in terms of how much travel you do in person and how much of you actually can do like this? Because obviously this way you can connect with so many people all over the world rather than being in one room doing things in front of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been a real eye-opener as to how successful or how many people you can reach. And I don't want to get overexcited about that, because it could have been, given the circumstances, that, you know, you had an audience at home and they were looking for things to do. But even so, like now we're looking at doing more Zoom tastings. Zoom tastings will become part of my sort of daily activities almost, with tastings with the different customers. And also the vineyard walks are going to continue too. And anything I can do, I can even personalize it for my different distributors. So for example, if I have Naked who want me to do a specific Zoom on a specific wine in a specific vineyard, I can actually take people in there now and sort of say, you know, let's taste the wine, and this is the vineyard it's come from. And so it will be a way of actually increasing the support for people selling my wines and the final consumer as well, to get the message. And we're doing that with wine shops, small wine shops too. We've got Zoom tastings coming out in August, where they need to buy at least, I think it's 2 wines from a selected range. And then every week for 2 weeks, I will on different nights taste those wines with people, so they can just log in if they want to and just find out a bit more. So it is replacing that sort of real journey and distance and actually travel. So it will replace that a bit. Another thing, I've actually cancelled going to Provine. I don't know if that's it, but it was one of
next year's Provine, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, I obviously cancelled this year. Otherwise, I might have been by myself there. But I just decided, whether it's the COVID thing and the travel and lots of people all together, but I've decided that next year we're going to give Provine a miss, and I'll be concentrating more on the smaller fairs. And the smaller fairs like Millésime Bio, so the organic one down here, or perhaps Paris as well. I might give that a go. But and also, like you say, having more time to actually be down here and communicate with people directly from the vineyard, because at the end of the day, I think it's a bit more exciting seeing the vineyard rather than just seeing a white tablecloth with a couple of bottles.
I suppose, as you say, the independent wine merchants there, although obviously people would love to have you in their shop doing a live tasting, but until people are comfortable doing that, I guess this in a way adds some sort of extra value to the fact that, you know, you can go with your local wine merchant to a winemaker in their vineyard. It all becomes a lot more personalised.
Exactly. I think I think so. Like, as a consumer, if I went in and bought a bottle of wine, and your wine merchant told you, well, if you like the wine, you can actually find out loads more about it. Katie's going to be doing, the winemaker herself is going to be doing a tasting, and she might take you out into the vineyard. And I think the idea for me now is to do short Zoom tastings. And I think, you know, just 15 minutes on one particular wine, but really to get the customer, and they could ask questions, you know, if they've tasted it, we can taste it together and just see what I find in the wine, see if they find it, give them some recipes to go with it. So I think it's a lot of added value, as you said, for customers of wine shops or any customers that buy my wines. Yeah.
So can you just talk in terms of your distribution then? How many markets are you in now, and what's the sort of
I haven't sort of counted them recently, but we're mainly in the UK. It's definitely our biggest market. We do export markets in Europe, like Germany, Sweden, Switzerland, Holland. We have some that goes to Taiwan and Japan, and also in the States too. So the idea always was we wanted to be spread out and in different distribution channels too. But we do probably 2% on the domestic market.
Wow, crikey. all those cooperatives have got their share then.
Exactly. So locally, like we just don't distribute in France. And I think I've spent, because I'm obviously from the UK, that was a market that I love going home to see my parents, and it's a market that I obviously really, really enjoy talking, and I'm in British, so it's just totally normal. And then the French market, I've never really looked into it, and it is something again that we will be looking into. The more local restaurants, like if you come down here, go to a restaurant, especially in the village, but that will be the last market I try and develop. I think it'll be the most challenging out of everything I've done.
So have your sales, I mean, obviously you're going in terms of through wine merchants and through Naked, so have your sales been quite strong then through lockdown? I mean, they have. I think mostly because we have different channels of distribution. So we're with Naked and we're with the Wine Society as well, and they were the sort of very successful channels of distribution during the COVID time. So yes, we haven't had a drop in sales at all, quite the contrary actually, during this time, because I think it's like we're not just in one particular distribution channel. You're not like heavily strong in the on-trade, or you know, so you haven't lost.
No, exactly. Like we're not 100% in the on-trade. So, but even for those on-trade customers that did then develop their internet sites, the sort of selling online, we were there to help them as well. That was a great thing about it. It was like, okay, well, you want to sell online. If you sell online, I can help you with my videos and with the Zoom tastings. And I've done tastings for amps, for example, in Undl, I don't know how to say Oundle. And I have done, you know, smaller tastings for smaller wine merchants who have continued to sell during this time. But we are really only just starting out in that side of the market. So it was, it's great because we can help develop them through the communication and the videos that we're doing, but we weren't doing a great percentage in that particular distribution channel.
Okay, so just looking at where you go from here. I mean, you mentioned that you've bought another vineyard. I mean, what's your sort of growth plans, or I mean, is it a case of building in the same model that you have, or are you looking? I mean,
yeah, I personally, I don't want to get any bigger. I think we always strive to get better and to understand the vineyards better and to understand the style of wines that we can make from these traditional grapes. So it will be definitely concentrating on winemaking and which vinification methods suit the different vineyards and the different styles of the different grape varieties, because we vinify everything separately. So I've got a tiny winery but with lots of little tiny tanks in it, so each vineyard has its own tank, so we can do that. So definitely not, I always say that, definitely not getting any bigger and then another vineyard will come up for sale. And it's just like vineyards down here, when they come up for sale, either they'll be sold and those lovely 80-year-old vines will be ripped up and replanted, or we sort of jump in and buy it and then look after the old vines. So it's quite difficult. So definitely same size, and also looking at the wine tourism side of things. I think down here there is a definite lack of quality wine tourism activities, or any wine tourism. It's not developed at all. And I came down here 25 years ago, arrived in the village and just thought, this is the most beautiful place that I've seen. And even then I thought there's such a big potential for tourism, and I just thought it's going to explode. And every year I thought it's going to explode, and I'm still thinking next year it's going to explode. And it takes a while down here, but the potential is there. They have everything, and hopefully, you know, Domaine Jones can play a part in developing wine tourism down here in the village and in the Languedoc in general.
Your village will love you even more when you bring all these thousands of Brits down to give them spend money and stay in there. It's just gonna be the way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would think that. Yeah, I hope perhaps it will be my way back into the village. You never know. Just, you know, people, and they do come down at the moment. I have customers that regularly come down. We've got a little tasting room, and they can visit the winery and the vineyards. But then, you know, they want to have something to eat, or there's some accommodation, but, you know, it's limited. So anything like that, yeah, definitely. I'll bring the customers in, and then I can spread it around the village. I think my cat wants to join in. I don't know if you can hear her. But if you...
sure if it was a farmyard animal or what it was.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what's happened to her. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No. Well, before I let you go, I just want to say that with the buyer, we've decided to sort of have a new lot of awards thing where we literally raise a glass to keep people in the industry for all their amazing efforts they've been doing during lockdown to keep us all going. And so I thought, so we thought we'd raise a glass to Katie Jones today, and we'll
thank you.
I've got a certificate that I'll try and work out how to put your name in it and send it to you. But
fantastic. Oh, thank you.
That's all right. Well, you know, it's a little touch, but I think
but it's definitely it's really nice. And thank you very much, and thanks for your support as well, because I know that you picked up on my rambles really early on. So thanks for that too. And no, I can't say. I find it difficult to say I've enjoyed the COVID time, but it's definitely I've filled my time. It's true, and I've really enjoyed what I've been doing. So no, thank you.
That's fine. Yeah. And I think actually, to be honest, what everyone talks about the drinks industry being a great people industry, and I think this period has really shown that, and there's been so much collaboration and that sense of community, and you've definitely been at the heart of that. So on behalf of us all here in the UK, thanks for all your morning walks.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Half my walks would be probably a bit better actually, but there you go.
I know. But I just thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I love farming today, and that's a little bit earlier than my walks. And I just thought, I'm going to do it at this time, and let's see how many people actually get out of bed to follow me. And I was quite pleasantly surprised.
Okay, well, thanks for your time, and wish you all the best.
Thanks, Richard.
See you on Instagram Live, and in real life hopefully soon as well.
Yeah, hopefully after not too long. It'd be fantastic.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, Richard.
Bye.
Bye.